The Sunbed Association is threatening legal action over what it calls misleading statements by a cancer charity. Melanoma UK is calling for sunbeds to be banned in the UK due to their links with the disease. The Sunbed Association says the evidence is flawed. Well, we can talk now to Gary Lippman, who's chairman of the Sunbed Association. Also, Gillian Nuttall, CEO of Melanoma UK. And we're also joined by Anthea Smith. She lost an ear to melanoma and puts it down to decades of using sunbeds. Welcome, all of you. Thanks for coming in. Anthea, you, as I say, lost your ear because of skin cancer, which you put down to the use of sunbeds. I know that you are prepared to show it because you want to raise awareness of the impact on you. So if you wouldn't mind, just
it's exposed today.
You have absolutely no ear there. Tell us what you lost.
Initially, there was a small lesion on the very top of my ear that my GP discarded, saying it was a wart. So it had been there for 5 years in place. It spread. It covered the whole of my ear. I was referred to a dermatologist and plastic surgeons who straight away asked if I'd used sunbeds and what my history was.
So it took 5 years?
My GP, like I say, was very lackadaisical. She said it was just a wart and therefore nothing to worry about, although it was spreading and bleeding. I had no reason to doubt my GP at that time. So initially my first surgery was to amputate my ear and my whole tragus, which left literally just a hole, and I still had hearing, albeit some balance issues. However, the pathology results from that showed that it had spread. I had skip metastasis and I had...
What's that?
Where the cancer cells had spread. Right. So melanoma is very much like a dandelion, so dandelion seeds. So you may see melanoma in situ, but there can be cells across your whole body. There's no rhyme or reason. It's very sneaky, it's very aggressive. I was then referred to Aintree Hospital, where I had the whole of my inner ear, middle ear, salivary glands, temporal bones, there's a lot of my skull missing, all my lymph nodes removed, so I'm now permanently deaf on the left side. I have no sense of taste, very poor balance, I can't feel anything on the left side of my head and neck, and that was followed up by 32 sessions of radiotherapy. So I was clipped into a mask at Clatterbridge. I'm diagnosed stage 3C melanoma, so it's terminal. I have no idea how long I've got to live. And every one of the 8 consultants that I'm under have all concretely said it's due to sunbed use.
Really? Yeah. Why are they so convinced it's sunbed use?
Due to all the data and the statistics.
But were you sunbathing a lot as well? I mean, tell us about your sunbed use, when it started, how much you were using sunbeds.
Around the age of 14, because I am a qualified hairdresser and beauty therapist, although I don't work in that trade now. Right. So I did a work experience at a hairdresser's which had a sunbed. It was an unpaid experience, so the manager would say, use a sunbed, it's great, extremely addictive. I liked having a tan, it felt good, I felt like I looked better. Went to college, like I say, qualified as a hairdresser and a beauty therapist, managed salons, owned my own salon. I was the first salon in an area to have a stand-up sunbed. No dangers were ever known, kind of it was promoted, like I say, as a healthy glow. So I'd go on once, maybe twice a week. The only time I didn't use them was when I was pregnant with my 2 sons. I stopped using probably about 3 months prior to my diagnosis. Right. Yeah.
And when you say they were absolutely sure it's sunbeds, how quick, did they ask you quickly whether you'd used them? What
Every
happened?
Consultation I was asked, and I remember at the time being a bit confused and kind of saying, I can't have cancer because it's not shown in any of my bloods, and they quickly said that skin cancer and melanoma would not show in blood results. But they were saying that there was there's evidence to prove that sunbed use before the age of 18, but even before the age of 35 links. And it was just before I was 40 when I was diagnosed.
So Gillian, Melanoma UK think that sunbeds should be banned in this country?
Yes. We take our lead from Australia. Australia and Brazil have already banned sunbeds in their country. And we have real issues with them because the World Health Organization classes them as a carcinogenic. NHS England will give you warnings on the website to say don't use them. CRUK, Macmillan, every huge organisation connected with health will say they are not good for you. And so, yeah, we've had patients along the years who've said, you know, Jill, we wish we'd never used them. Please fight for a ban if you can. Do what they did in Australia. So that's the reason why we're doing what we're doing.
You're threatening legal action over their call for a ban. Why?
Oh my word, the last thing we want to do is have any legal action. But we have been trying to engage with Melanoma UK for 5 years. We've been asking them. And I ask anybody, if somebody is saying something that's consistently wrong, if somebody is saying something that's hurtful, either professionally or personally, what
But calling
recourse
for
is
a
left?
ban isn't.
What recourse is left? But we
that's
have
not
no
slander,
problem. We have absolutely no problem with a campaign. What we have a problem is with some of the facts that they use in the campaign, which are clearly untrue.
So which are the facts you've got issue with? Because a lot of the facts are coming out of organisations like the World Health Organisation, the British Medical Journal. There have been bans in other countries that have obviously based it on evidence. So what's the evidence that you take issue with?
We have, okay, the predicate of that a sunbed is a cause of melanoma is clinically untrue.
Why?
Well, because the research that they're using has been proved to be flawed. 10 years ago, a data set was created which has subsequently been shown as flawed. In fact, what it showed is medical devices used in hospitals have a far higher risk. And when sunbeds, professional sunbeds alone are tested, there is no link.
Why do you think doctors asked Anthea as soon as she was diagnosed with skin cancer whether she'd use sunbeds?
Because it's not about the sunbed, it's about UV in general. What we've got to do is stop people from overexposing. It is overexposure, it is overuse that is dangerous. I'm very sorry about the story I heard this morning, but by Anthea's own admission, she was using sunbeds at home from the age of 14. I represent the Sunbed Association. The Sunbed Association is a group of people who run salons throughout the United Kingdom.
It wasn't at home, it was in a salon,
It was at home.
Initially, they were hired at home,
yeah.
and I didn't mention that today, so I'm glad you've done your research. But people can still hire them at home. People can go into a salon, as you say, they're regulated. No ID is ever checked. No age is ever checked.
I encourage anybody to go to a salon which is in membership of the Sunbed Association, where you can be assured that the people in there are properly trained. They sign up to a code of practice. When somebody goes into a salon that's a member of the Sunbed Association, we assess the people. Is their skin type appropriate?
So you're not saying
it's appropriate to use a sunbed?
I'm sorry?
What skin type is appropriate to use a sunbed?
Anyone that can that tans without burning. So somebody with very sensitive skin, we call it skin type 1.
Would you be
Somebody
able
that's
to
Celtic.
visibly see somebody with sensitive skin though with the naked
Absolutely.
eye? Would you?
All our salon members are trained, their staff are trained to recognise. If somebody comes in with very sensitive skin, we must be aware that there are some groups that cannot tan.
If I
and we
presented
screen them
today
out.
to use a sunbed, not that I would, there isn't a cat in hell's chance that I would, but if I presented today with my ear covered and didn't disclose, because I don't have sensitive skin, one of your Sunbed Association salons would allow me to use that sunbed.
But there is absolutely
What would they check?
Well, there is absolutely no link that says what happened to you was caused by the sunbed.
So would one of your salons happily allow me to use your sunbed?
No, because it's clear that you have a history.
If there's no link, now I've got melanoma,
Yeah.
how would going on a sunbed change that if there's no risk?
But you would be triaged. My point is, you would be asked a series of questions,
Okay.
and once your medical history comes out, we would say, please don't sunbathe
But
anymore.
there's no risk
because
though.
clearly-
Why would that be stopped?
You've already said that there isn't a risk. You already
No.
said that there is no link between melanoma and sunbeds. But yet, if she goes into one of your sunbed salons and they say, "Oh, you've had melanoma, you can't use it," but you said there's not a link.
Gillian, you know that UV is cumulative, so the overuse,
Carcinogenic.
the chronic overuse that we're hearing has to be stopped. It is not tanning per se that's dangerous, it's burning.
So
it's
are there
chronic
restrictions
use.
then around how much someone can actually use
Absolutely.
a sunbed?
Under our code of practice, and it's a general statement throughout the industry, we recommend that people should not use a sunbed more than 60 sessions a year. An average session is about 10 minutes. Add that up, that's about 10 hours a year. Compare that with what happens on a beach in the Mediterranean. People are sunbathing for 10 hours a day, not a year.
I just want to go through some of the evidence because I mentioned the organisations that that are concerned, and countries have instigated bans. The WHO says regular use of sunbeds significantly increases your chances of skin cancer if you are fair-skinned. You've already touched on that. The WHO also says the exposed skin area in sunbed tanning is at least twice as large as the average sunbathers. The NHS says many UK sunbeds give out greater doses of UV rays than the midday Mediterranean sun. The NHS says using a sunbed to get a tan is not safer than tanning in the sun, and the NHS says the symptoms of UV skin damage can take up to 20 years to appear. There's a lot of evidence. I mean, in this country, you can't use a sunbed unless you're over 18, correct. So it's adults taking their own decisions. But I mean, ultimately, you do agree that there is a risk through overuse. You're talking about responsible use. You want a ban, you don't want a ban, but in fighting against a ban, you're threatening them with legal action. Is that actually the way to have a conversation like this?
Exactly. Why does it take 5 years of saying we'd like to have a conversation? No matter how complex the issues are, there is no reason why we cannot have a collegiate discussion. We've been asking for 5 years.
Okay, so what?
I asked Gillian directly, why haven't you met with us for 5 years? What are you so afraid of? Why won't you meet us?
I'm not afraid of anything that you have to say, Mr. Lippman. I just don't like you as a person.
Let's not get personal.
I don't like what you. I don't like what your organisation stands for. You talk about this. Your organisation that has all these member salons. You have 571 at the last count salons as members of your association. There are thousands of sunbed salons throughout the UK, and you know that. Your organisation has no teeth. You cannot possibly legislate. You cannot have ever helped this lady avoid what happened to her, can you, realistically?
This is exactly why your organisation's facts are so out of date. We represent more than 50% of the market. If we were a high street chain, we'd be on every high street in the country. I'm very sorry. You need to understand that the facts you're using are so outdated, and this is the problem we have. Why won't you meet with us? I ask you. We asked you for 5 years.
Do you accept, Gillian, that sunbeds could be used responsibly?
No, never.
You think one single use of a sunbed is irresponsible?
I would look at what medics tell us. I'm not a medic, neither is Mr.
I haven't
Lippman.
seen anywhere though in the evidence it said that it's occasional use is going to cause you a long-term
The problem that we have, and there is a study at the moment going into addiction to tanning, and I spoke to a lady a couple of years ago, and sadly she's no longer with us, and she was utterly addicted to tanning, and she would go from salon to salon through different areas of where she lived to avoid anyone knowing what she was doing, and she would use 10 minutes in one area of the town and then skip a few miles
she's an
down
adult
the road.
though, and she knew what she was doing.
Well, yeah.
And she was deliberately getting around the rules by doing it that way.
Of course, but what rules are they? What rules are they? Because, you know, as I say, Mr. Lippman says he represents over 50% of the salons. What warnings are there? If you buy a cigarette pack, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed, because obviously, you know, you want responsible. You want people to be responsible with the sun. I went on your website just to see what was on there, and you're running actually a competition for people to win a holiday to Tenerife.
Yeah.
Now, I know that's in conjunction with a company that we won't name, but nowhere did I see on that competition that it's mentioned that you should be taking sunscreen. I mean, is that actually the sort of thing that you should be advertising when you're concerned about people's sun use?
Yeah, so that came on the back of, there was a report recently about people saying that there was a report that said that people are blaming package holidays for people's melanoma and skin cancer. We totally disagree with that. It's not the fault of a package holiday, it's what we do when we get there.
But there is a direct link between sunbathing and skin cancer.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how you're paying or who you're going
absolutely
through,
not.
going in the sun.
But these guys have supported us and said, look, we agree with you that, you know, it's what they do when they get there.
Yeah, because they're a package holiday company, they want people to take package holidays.
But if you did do a little bit more digging throughout our website, you would have seen there is some more information there.
I did, and I didn't see anything around, you just put your details in to win the prize. There's nothing about sort of saying that you understand about self-sun.
I think that it may well be on the social media pages then that they were saying that we're supporting Melanoma UK, but we're on the back of making sure that you have this holiday and you're sensible when you're there. So I take your point on that fully.
People texting, one anonymous texter, I use sunbeds and dealt with stage 2 melanoma. If they're not bad for you, then why isn't the Sunbed Association going for cancer research or the WHO? Angie on text, I use sunbeds before I go on holiday as I'm very dark skinned and I find I tan better if I go on a sunbed beforehand. I'm always very careful. Sharon on Twitter, I've got stage 2 melanoma, skin cancer and was a sunbed user. My use of sunbeds was the first thing my consultants queried and I believe it's at the very least partly responsible. Is a tan really worth dying for? That point, why not go for the WHO for cancer research? They're the people that are coming up with all of this and saying that there is a link.
Large institutions are like large battleships. We really have to, it takes a long time to get them to change their mind. And
Well,
colleagues
they're
of mine...
basing it on evidence, aren't
No,
they?
they're
They're not
basing...
just saying it.
The people that wrote the report in 2009, as I said, this is the report that I mentioned that didn't talk about professional sunbeds. It talked about UV devices. That's what skewed the results. And
Are you really going
subsequently-
to take them to court if they keep on saying they want a ban on sunbeds?
Well, as I said, oh my word, the last thing we want to
No,
do
but
is
will
take
you do
anybody
it?
to court.
That's what people always
Well,
say before
if they engage,
action.
if Jill, you will engage with us, sit with us and correct some of the statements that you're making that are wholly untrue.
Well, saying
of
they
course
want
we
to
don't
ban
want to.
is just that is their opinion. They
No,
want to
they
ban,
can-
they'll lobby for that.
There is
And will you
nothing-
take action
we live
against
in a
that?
free country. Of course they can campaign as much as they want.
Well, so sue then.
But any campaign has to be based upon the truth. You know, government agencies engage with us, local authorities engage with us, and we help them. That's how we've been able to grow our membership, and that's how we've been able to do the continuous professional development that we've done in our industry. The industry has changed so much in the last 10 years, and there's so much that is so outdated that all we ask Melanoma UK or anybody who is against sunbeds is engage with us and campaign on the truth, not
Okay.
misleading facts
We're,
that are proved to
quick
be-
final comment, then we're out of time.
It's fine you saying you want to engage with us, and you know we've said to you if you want to sue, we're happy to take your proceedings. You have written to stage 4 melanoma patients in
We'd
the
rather
same
talk
in
to
the
you.
same term.
We'd rather talk to you
But
face
you've
to
already
face.
threatened. You've been threatening to sue for a year. Are you going to sue or aren't you?
Okay, well are you? Quickly.
If Melanoma UK do not engage,
All right,
then
you're
that's
going
very
round in circles.
sadly,
Well, let's see whether you can get to talk
I
or
was
not. But
contacted a month ago by NHS in Northern Ireland by the chief of their health, and they're happily now using the image of the side of my head in each sunbed salon to basically say, so where you say you can buy a cigarette packet and it'll have the dangers of cancer,
Yeah.
the side profile of me is going to be in every sunbed in Northern Ireland to say there is a direct link. So choose to use this sunbed, and this is a
Would you
likelihood
support
of
that
what
being
may
rolled
happen.
out?
we would rather engage. I didn't know about that, but of course, we do provide warnings. It's
no, but
very
would you
clear.
just I mean, we've gone over time,
Yeah,
but that is a
okay.
really interesting point because cigarette packets obviously carry very graphic warnings.
Alcohol
would
has
you
the
support?
warnings,
Would
yeah.
you support that in tanning salons?
I support education and adults making a choice either in the
Well
sun
informed.
or a sunbed.
So if they see a
well
picture, does
informed,
that help them make that choice?
Informed choices for adults. That's what I support.
Okay, well, let's see if that's somewhere to go. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. Keep your comments coming in. Thank you very much for those so far.